Welcome to today's Sustainable Career webinar, and we're excited today to hear from Julia Saintz, Sustainability Program Coordinator at Evoqua Water Technologies. Julia actually is a Chatham graduate, and she also used to work for our K12 partnership office when she was a student here at Eden Hall and at Chatham. So thanks so much for joining us today, Julia. Take it away.
Thanks so much for having me, Kelly. I'm super excited to be here. This is going to be the highlight of my day and probably my week and maybe even my month. And not just because we're in lockdown and not just because of COVID, but because environmental education and seeing all of your bright and shining faces is something that I'm super passionate about, and it just brightens my day and my life. So thank you all for taking the time. And I'm really, really excited to hear your questions later on. So keep those in mind, and you can even write them down so that you don't remember them, or put them in the chat box for later. So again, my name is Julia Saintz, and I'm working to build the sustainability program at Evoqua Water Technologies. A little bit about us. So we are a water technology company, and we create the tech that cleans water, and the water that we drink, and the water that we no longer use, so that comes out of us as well, and maybe even the water used to make this glass, or the water used to make my phone, for instance. So we create the technology that makes the water clean, and to make sure that we have enough water too. So what are we going to talk about today? First, we're going to explain what corporate sustainability is, because that's a unique piece of sustainability. And it's different than other forms of sustainability, so let's talk about that. And then what do I do as a professional in corporate sustainability? And then how did I get here? Each person has a really unique path. You should always ask people how they got to their job. It's a unique question, and everyone always has a unique response. Generally, professionals in every field, but especially people in sustainability, always ask people that question. And then hopefully we'll get real, and then even more real in the Q&A later on. So what is corporate sustainability? Kelly introduced it a little earlier, but I like to define sustainability generally by the 3 P's or the 3 E's of people, environment, or talking about the earth. And then P, we protect the earth and our environment for people so that we can have an equitable planet for our society. And then for people, we want to make sure that everyone can make a living through good financials, and we can have a healthy economy. So those are, if we have all of those things working together, then we can have a sustainable world, a sustainable planet, and we can have sustainability. So the United Nations set out 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And these goals aren't perfect, but I really love them because they're really visual. So I'm going to say a few of them, and if you turn your video on, I'd like you to do a thumbs up if you understand what I mean when I say one of them. So when I say zero hunger, thumbs up if you know what I mean by when we're trying to get zero hunger in the world. Do you know what I mean by that? You know what I mean when we try to get zero hunger? Yes? All right. When I say clean water and sanitation, do you know what I mean by that? Yes? When I say gender equality, do you know what I mean by that one? All right, a few less thumbs for that one. That one's a little tougher, but that one you can learn more about too. So they can be really, sustainability is tough to understand, but with the SDGs, it makes it a little bit easier to understand, a little bit more tangible. So when we're asking communities and individuals and businesses and nonprofits about sustainability, we can use the SDGs hey, big business, we want you to be more sustainable, we can say, oh, we can do it through the SDGs. My monitors the presentations over here, that's why I keep looking over here. So for my company, for instance, Evoqua, when we look at SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, we can look at our sustainability report, transforming water. Well, that's our purpose. Transforming water, that's literally what we do. We build technology that cleans water. So, oh wow, we really connect with SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. So we can really work to help the world meet that global goal. And then SDG 3, for instance, good health and well-being. Wow, when we make water more clean, our purpose is then transforming water and enriching life. We're working towards SDG 3 by making water more healthy for people to drink. So that's what makes sustainability tangible for businesses. So does that make sense a little bit more? Corporate sustainability of how businesses can be better through the SDGs? Thumbs up, thumbs down, medium? Mediocre? Okay, well hopefully it'll, thumbs up, okay. Hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense throughout the presentation. So how do I spend my days? This is where I hope it gets more tangible for you of what does a corporate sustainability professional actually do? So I can talk about the big lofty stuff, but what do I do on a daily basis that makes that come to life? So I thought about it and I tried to pull out an overview of when it comes down to it, what do I really do on a daily basis? So maybe on Monday morning, I meet with our operations team and we talk about how are our energy efficiency measures coming along so that we can be more, are we installing enough LED light bulbs? Are we doing enough to reduce our electricity bills, for instance? And then maybe on Monday afternoon, I meet with our data science team, which is some of my favorite groups of people because we're working on a really neat project right now where we're trying to quantify how much water we treat at Evoqua so that one day we can say, well, we treat, for instance, the amount of water going over Niagara Falls in a certain time period. How cool would that be able to say that? So one day that's going to be something we do, and that's called data visualization. It's really cool. Whole new careers are coming up into that. So if you like to be able to say stuff like that, you should look into a career as a data scientist. And then on Tuesday morning, I might meet with a local nonprofit so that employees can do volunteering in our local communities and serve our communities. And then on Tuesday afternoon, I may present to leaders at Evoqua to give them a heads up, hey, this is how the sustainability program's doing, because communication is really, really important. I'm sure you're talking to your teachers a lot right now. Are you talking to your teachers a lot about how you're doing and what you're doing in your schoolwork right now? Are your teachers asking you to communicate a lot? Well, my bosses are telling me, hey, you need to communicate a lot to me right now, especially during COVID, because they're like, I'm not seeing you much, so you got to talk to me a lot right now. And then on Wednesday morning, I might have a partnership call with an outside group, and that one, it changes every day. And then Wednesday afternoon, I might meet with we're trying to make our vehicle fleet more efficient because that's where a lot of our emissions come from. And for a lot of companies, their greenhouse gas emissions come from their vehicle fleet. And then Thursday morning, I may meet with a sustainable investor group that wants to ask us more questions about our sustainability report. And then on Thursday afternoon, I may work with our communications team to develop something like what you see here of our LinkedIn post and our Twitter posts, which are really fun to work on. And then on Friday, I might work with our human resources team to say, hey, how can we work with our Live Well group to help our employees be more healthy? And then on Friday, or it's either Friday or Monday morning, I usually get a special project. Like I got a special project recently. I never knew I would have to know so much about chicken poop. And I grew up with chickens, but I never knew I would have to know so much about chicken poop. I just never knew. But that was a really fun special project I got to work on lately. My little sister asked me this past weekend, she said, you know, you work in an office job now. You're in the office all the time. And I said, yeah, my past jobs, I was doing a lot of environmental education. So I got to hang out with kids like you. And it was really fun. Every day was different. But every day is different now, even though I'm in an office. I get to learn about chicken poop and stuff that I never thought I'd get to learn about or have to learn about. So every day is different, and that's really cool, even in an office job. So my job keeps me on my toes. It's really different, it's fun, but my job isn't everything. So in order to make sure I get to hang out with people and make sure I'm serving my community, I also volunteer with a few organizations. So does anyone else do any volunteer work? Thumbs up if you do volunteer work. Does anyone else do any volunteer work? Okay, a couple. So that's really important to do. Your job doesn't have to be everything to you. You can also do your hobbies and your volunteer work. Okay, so how do you get into a career in corporate sustainability? This is a really important question you should be asking. I ask people all the time, how did you get into your job, especially in corporate sustainability? Well, there isn't a single path. I ask people the same question all the time, and I always get a different answer. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my really weird path to how I got here. So here's some photos, and feel free to ask me more questions about these later. In high school and in college, I tried to be involved in social justice advocacy and environmental justice advocacy. And I did some really awesome projects in fair trade coffee in Colombia. That's what these photos are from. And I worked on our campus farm, an organic farm in Shippensburg. And I took an awesome trip to Nepal to hike in the Himalayas to the 7th tallest mountain in the world. Really fun, cool project. But how do these add up to sustainability? I don't know. In the end, they do, but it's messy, not always clear. So in the end, I graduated with a degree in history and a degree in earth sciences. Is anybody taking an earth science class right now? Or were you taking an earth science class right now? Yes? See one hand? Does anybody like their earth science class right now? No, you don't? It was my favorite class. Okay, what about history? Thumbs up if you like history. Yeah, what? Okay, so I loved history, but I loved earth science. So history was my way to get the social studies, the social aspect, because I love people, but the earth science, the geosciences was my way because I really cared about the environment. So getting both those degrees was my way to combine them. And it was perfect for setting the groundwork for sustainability. And by the way, I didn't even know what the word sustainability was really before this time. So then after I graduated, I moved to Nevada, and I got to teach kids as young as 3 years old how to throw knives and hatchets. Has anyone ever thrown a knife or a hatchet before? Yes? Awesome. Well, so that was a really cool, fun job. I'm glad so many of you have had that experience. And I got to go around to balloon festivals and lead hikes and teach people how to cook cobblers on an open fire. It was really fun. And then I moved to DC and I got to lead litter cleanups and do more environmental education. And then I came back to grad school and I got to do even more environmental education with kids like you in the K12 program. And then I graduated with my master's degree in sustainability. And look, there's Kelly. So now let's get a little deeper. There is no clear path to how do you get a job in corporate sustainability? How do you make a career out of it? It's messy, it's unclear. Everyone makes their own path. I show you all those pictures to be really honest and genuine with you, because you can say whatever you want, but everyone has their own experiences, so you can make your own out of that. And everyone brings with them their own experiences, and you need that because sustainability is full of wicked, complex problems. And some of these problems keep me up at night. I don't know about you. One of those is climate change. And when I was younger, I only knew it as global warming, but that was something that really stressed me out. I cried myself to sleep a lot because it really, really scared me, because I didn't know enough about it, and I didn't have anyone to talk to about it, and nobody knew enough about it around me, and no one knew how to solve for it because it was a really complex, big, scary issue. And it wasn't till, honestly, just a year or two ago that I finally felt comfortable enough that I knew enough. And now in my latest position at Evoqua, I feel like I'm finally in a position where I can take a big, deep breath. And I'm in a position where I can say, I'm part of the solution now. So I want you to know that it's okay, especially now in a time of COVID, it's okay. Sorry. It's okay to be scared, especially about big, scary things like climate change and COVID. It's okay to be scared about things like this. Just make sure you're talking about it, and make sure you're educating yourself about the solutions on how to solve these issues, because you have awesome people like Greta that you can look up to, who's your age, and you can look up to her and you can see what she's doing about it. So there's a lot of scary stuff going on right now, but there's a lot of awesome people and lots of awesome stuff that's happening that we can do about it. So with that, I'll hand it back to Kelly if there are any questions.
Thanks, Julia. If anyone has questions for Julia, you can type them in the chat window, either to everyone or just to me. And Julia, I'm going to start off by saying you're talking about how you really didn't feel like you were part of the solution until the past year or two. For all of the youth that are on the call, our last call with Daniel Rossi Keene was really inspiring about getting kids involved, just like your example of Greta right now, to help create change. Do you have any ways that youth can get involved with some of Evoqua's projects, or do you have suggestions from other pathways you might know about, if not at Evoqua?
Right now, we don't have a ton for K through 12 students to work on right now, but honestly, I think the Chatham K through 12 program is the best mechanism for Pittsburgh students to work through, because you have a resource, a network of students and of experts to connect the students to on specific projects. If you're interested in everything from air quality to corporate sustainability to climate change, Kelly can connect you to a particular expert if you want to learn more about that. So I'd say the K12 program is one of the best resources I know about.
Thanks, Julia. Nice shout out.
This age group.
Easy personal question. Which mountain did you hike when you went to the Himalayas?
So we hiked to an old base camp of Manaslu.
And what are some problems or challenges that you've had to overcome?
What problems haven't I had, I guess? I think one that I've had that I still struggle with is having confidence in myself and trusting myself to an imposter syndrome, especially coming out of school and knowing the knowledge that I have. So sometimes when you go to school, when you're in school, you think you know it all because you have all this knowledge in your brain, and then you come out and you realize, oh, I think I know it all. And then you realize, oh, well, maybe I don't, because someone questions you. But I do know some stuff. So that's something that I've been struggling with lately. But I've been overcoming it by talking to my mentors. It's really important to make sure you have a group of, maybe it's your parents, or maybe it's your friends, or maybe it's your aunts or your uncles, or maybe it's your friends' parents, or whoever, other people that you can look up to in your life and you can go to when you need advice. And you need people to either tell you you're wrong or to tell you when you are right. You need people to tell you both of those things. So luckily I have some of those people in my life, so I'm appreciative to them.
Thanks, Julia. Whether you're learning about things like building your own self-confidence, or you're learning about things like what's coming next in the field of water or in corporate sustainability, business sustainability, what are some of the places that you go to learn more? Some of your favorite websites or newsletters or books or people you follow on Twitter or whatever. Where can we also learn more about the things that get you excited?
Yeah. I go to you a lot, Kelly, for when I have questions about diversity and inclusion. I go to other professors at Chatham as well. And I go to the Pitt Center for Sustainable Business. When I have other questions about corporate sustainability, they have lots of really great resources. And there's a I can't think of it right now. There's a listserv that I'm on that I get regularly. I think it's called WEF. It's for busy executives who about sustainability. I can send it to you afterwards as a follow-up, but I go to that often for regular updates on what are other corporations doing in their sustainability reports. That's probably one of the best go-to resources that I have.
Thanks, Julia. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the other folks that work at Evoqua? What are their jobs? What are some other careers that people can have if they want to get into water technology and water treatment?
Yeah, so we have a lot of service techs at Evoqua that are going out right now, and I just want to do a shout out to them because right now in COVID, they are going into hospitals and they are going into labs and they are serving our customers right now and every day, and they are putting themselves on the front lines and serving our customers who are on the front lines every day. So just thank you to them. But what they're doing is they are making sure that the filters and the other equipment that's cleaning the water for our customers. So right now we have we're helping to, one of the customer examples is at a distillery that makes, normally it makes alcohol, but right now they're transitioning to making sanitizer. Some of our service techs are going in and they helped them to change some of their equipment over to make hand sanitizer for the COVID epidemic. So that's one of the a popular job that we have. Actually, I think one of my coworkers is on the line right now. So feel free to jump in, and if you want to talk about your job too, but that's a popular job that we have. We also do have a lot of engineers that help to design the technology. If you actually want to design and be an engineer and design I wish I had one of our filters or something here with me, but if you want to be an engineer and actually design filter water technology, it's a really, really neat job. And then you can move around all in the company and do a lot of different things once you understand the technology. That's a cool one.
Thanks, Julia. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you said earlier with regard to water being in the glass you were holding up and in phones? What did you mean when you were talking about water being used to make phones and glasses and other things? The question, this is coming from two, and the follow-up question is, are the phones you make out of water waterproof?
Great questions. So water is a resource that we often take for granted. I actually, on my desk here, I was at this forum, this presidential debate, or it wasn't a debate, it was a presidential talk for candidates who were running to be president, and we were talking about water because that was the first of its kind, because we never talk about that before, because we just take it for granted. We take clean water for granted every day. Water is used to make my phone. We clean water to make my phone because we have to clean water to the point that if you were to drink the water, it would kill you in a matter of a very short amount of time, because it would be so clean that it would pull the minerals out from you. It's not used necessarily to make it waterproof, but it's used in the processes that's to make the phone. It's used in the sanitization of, if you were to think of the fresh fruit that you get, the strawberries that you get in your house, think of the peppers, the radishes. Whenever you have to get those in your house, before they come to you, they get washed. So it takes a lot of water to get those products into your house. In order to make my clay coffee mug, it takes water to make this clay. In order to make the paper in my notebook, it takes water to physically mix the paper and the water and to press it, and then you press the water out and dry it, but to make those products. Does that make sense a bit more? So water is in almost every single thing. It might not be in the end product, but it's used to make it.
Yeah, so we can't see the water that's in our phones or in our t-shirts, but the factories that make those things use water in that process, and that's the water that you're talking about.
Yeah, and they use a lot of water. So in college, I studied textile factories, and I studied it from the social side to see how did sweatshops originally get started. But to make my shirt, for instance, it uses a ton of water. So at Evoqua, we help our customers to reuse that water and to recycle it so that they don't have to keep pulling out water from areas that don't have enough water. They can just keep reusing and reusing and reusing that water.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks for explaining that a little bit more. Do you have suggestions for student groups or school groups that might like to try to communicate with businesses so students can learn more about corporate sustainability in their community? What's the best way for youth to reach a business if they're trying to write a letter or get in touch with a business?
Ooh. So first, creep on the business. And the best way to do that is to check out their sustainability reports. So you can go on right now and you can check out our sustainability reports on our website. And I highly encourage you to check out our sustainability webpage and totally creep on us. And you can see our past sustainability reports on there. And feel free to, creep on us. That's totally normal. And you can check out our social media and, see if the business is talking about sustainability. If they're not talking about it, it's probably not important to them. That's a good way to tell. And if they aren't creating a sustainability report, then it's definitely not important to them. That's the sure tell sign. If you can't find a sustainability report on their website, sustainability isn't important to them. Then if you want to reach out to them, see if they have a specific sustainability email. For instance, at Evoqua, we have a sustainability@evoqua.com, and you can reach out to one of those general emails. And then if they don't have that, try to find one of their communications at yadayadacompany.com. And then it depends on the company, but sustainability is usually housed in a communications or marketing sect of a business, or it's housed in a environmental health and safety or operations, or sometimes a few other departments. It just depends on the business. But communications is a good place to start if you can find a communications email. Another interesting way to engage with a business, and there's an interesting company here in Pittsburgh who has a history of engaging with companies this way, is through investors. So if you have some money and or if your parents do or something, and you want to engage with a company and change a company from within, is to invest in a company and to buy stock in a company. So do you understand what I mean when I say to buy stock in a company? Show me with thumbs if you know what I mean, to buy stock in a company. Yes? Okay. So to buy stock in a company means you're buying ownership in a company, and you can change a company. You can say, hey, I now own a piece of you, and I'm going to tell you what I want you to do. So it's a really cool way that you can tell a company what you want them to do. So you can go, and it's becoming more and more popular. It's called engaging. It has a few other names too, but yeah, so that's another way that you can engage with a company. And there's a company here in Pittsburgh called Hermes. And if you wanted to reach out to them, I can give Kelly a contact there actually. And they can be a resource that we can have if you're interested in investor engagement and how investors are doing this. It's a whole new realm. It's not just how the public is changing companies, and it's not just how companies are changing themselves. It's how investors who have money are changing companies. So that's a whole spiel, but it's really neat. So yeah.
Thanks, Julia. If other folks have questions, feel free to submit more in the chat window. Otherwise, I'm going to keep coming up with questions. I got plenty. I want to know more about what you're doing with chicken poop. What is your chicken poop project?
Yeah. So chicken poop, man, it's really high in calories, and it's really high in nutrients. So if we go back to SDG 7, Sustainable Development Goal 7, it's all about clean and renewable energy. And how can we make it so that more people have it? And we as a company, we clean water. Okay, so what's the connection there? There's this thing called the food, water, energy nexus. So to clean water, it takes a lot of energy. So we try to create technology that doesn't use a lot of energy, but it's tough. So one unique way that we're trying to do it, and other companies are too, is through anaerobic digestion. It's really neat. You should look into it. It doesn't sound really cool, but it is, I promise. And so has anyone heard of composting? Composting? Yes? Okay, so think of composting. It's a form of composting. Cool. Thank you for turning your camera on. I love all these thumbs. So think of composting. It's a form of composting. And we turn waste into energy. So we turn chicken poop into clean, renewable energy. So that's a long way of talking about it, but that's the project that I was working on. And I was trying to do a life cycle analysis of chicken poop, of what are the most sustainable options of using chicken poop. What can you do with it? You can either landfill it, or you can anaerobically digest it, or you can have a few other options. And then once you compost it or anaerobically digest it, then what do you do with it? You have a few options. You can turn it into renewable natural gas or just methane, or you can, and then or you can use it as first you'd make it into biogas, and then you can use it to heat your house, sorry, I'm getting in the weeds. But anyways, you have a few options, and that's what I was doing with chicken poop. It can be more sustainable than it is right now. So chicken poop, chicken poop, chicken poop.
That's cool to learn more about that, Julia. You use a phrase when you were talking life cycle analysis. Can you tell us more about what that is?
Yeah, so I first heard about this when I was told in a class that this was in college, I was told I wasn't allowed to use my computer because they thought I was going to be on Facebook or something. I said, I'm not, I'm taking notes on it. And I said, this is the more sustainable option. And they said, prove it. I said, okay. And this teacher and I are now really good friends. And I don't suggest you always, talk back to your teacher or something, but I tried to prove it. And so what I did was I went and I said, okay, my notebook, in order to make my notebook, they have to go cut down a tree and saw it and do all the stuff to make the paper, and they have to bind it, and then they have to make that into the book, and then they have to take that book from where it's made. They have to ship that to the store, and then I have to drive to get it to the store, and then I have to take it home, and that's all it is to take the notebook. And then I already have my computer for other reasons, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into making my computer. But in order to charge my computer, they have to go through the process of making all the energy. And normally they go through coal-fired power plants to make that energy. So they have to dig up the coal. They have to transport that coal. Well, they have to process it. Then they have to transport that coal to a distribution site. Then they have to buy it. Then they have to transport it again to probably somewhere else. And then they have to transport it to the coal-fired power plant. And then they have to burn it, and all those air emissions and everything going up into the air. And then all the electricity is distributed to my house, and then there's a loss of electricity off into the air because it just goes off. And anyways, so I was trying to balance out, when you cut down all those trees, you lose all the I'm going to throw another term out at you, ecosystem services that goes along with it. So you can ask me about that one too later. But the tree does a bunch of really great stuff for us. Like it cleans the air, it holds the soil in place with its roots, and it makes us happier too. That's been proven. And it hurts all the other trees around it when we take it out too. That's been proven too. And then it hurts all the animals too that used to use that as habitat. And it hurts biodiversity as well. So I told you sustainability is complicated. Do you believe me now? Yeah? Okay. Sustainability is complicated. So a life cycle analysis is trying to figure out which is the better option. Is it better for me to use my computer and use all that electricity from a coal-fired power plant, or is it better for me to try and use my notebook from cutting down all of the trees and all of the emissions in order to make it? So a life cycle analysis is going, plus I have to throw out my notebook then in the end. And then, what's the end of life of that? And when it goes to a landfill, I don't know if I can recycle it. And then the same with my laptop. I don't know if I can recycle that too. So a life cycle analysis is trying to balance out which is the most sustainable option from the beginning to the end.
So what was the answer you came up with for your teacher?
It was my laptop. Yeah, by far.
Cool. That's a neat story to go along with the explanation. Thanks for saying all that, Julia.
Yeah, I hope it made sense. Sorry.
Yeah, that was good. I'm wondering if this is your dream job, or if not, what is your dream job?
That's a great question. I have a lot of dream jobs, and I hope all of you do too. If you don't, that's fine. I have a lot of dream jobs. I love what I'm doing now. I love it because I have the ability to make an impact. I have the ability to change an entire company, to make an entire company of 4,000 employees that makes $1.4 billion a year. I have the ability to make that big of a company more sustainable. How cool is that? To me, that's really cool because I come from really small nonprofits of max maybe 25 people. So our ability to make an impact was really small. We did really, really awesome stuff, but we could only do so much with that few people. So at a bigger company, we as a company have the opportunity to do a lot more. So yeah, that's really awesome. And I really do enjoy that. But I would love to also work with communities more. And I mean, working for the UN, how cool would that be? Or working for a city, that would be really neat. Working for a nonprofit again would be really cool. But I love working for Evoqua. It's really neat when I asked our CEO, for instance, if he wanted to join this group called CEOs for Sustainability here in Pittsburgh. And he said, "Oh, I already joined." And so that's really neat. When I ask our top leader if he wants to do something about sustainability, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm already on it." So I don't have to convince too many people about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm already on it." So that's really nice and pretty cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Julia. We have about 10 minutes left. If anyone else has any more questions, adults or youth that are on the call, feel free to submit them through the chat window.
And again, no question is a dumb question. I love all kinds of questions.
I'm wondering if your anaerobic digestion project, your chicken poop project, are you trying to get more people in the whole world to use that technology, to use chicken poop to make energy, or are you Do you have certain places that are Evoqua specific projects where you're trying to build like one of those digesters to turn chicken poop into energy? What's the scale of that chicken poop project?
Yeah, I'd say both. Um, it has potential for both. This is not something just for one location. This is something that anybody can do. This technology isn't just for one site. Anyone can do this. The example, for instance, that I showed was from Thailand, where they used molasses, which is a really tough, sticky substance to work with. And we allowed that one customer called Thai Beverage, to replace 80% of the fossil fuels that they were using to heat. They were able to use anaerobic digestion. So they were using 80% fossil fuels, and instead they now used 80% renewable clean energy from their waste. How cool is that? So this tech can be used anywhere on a multiple different scales in multiple different ways with different types of waste. It's not just chicken poop, although it's really fun to talk about because it's poop, right? It can also be used with molasses, with wastewater. It can be used for our poop too. Lots of different kinds.
And we can get away from the chicken poop. Can you tell us more about Evoqua's technologies themselves? You told us a little bit at the beginning about how they're used, that they're used to treat drinking water and like wastewater from humans. What do the technologies look like? Do you have some at your desk at home? Do you have pictures of you can show us? Can you describe them? How big are they? What are the technologies?
Yeah, so I've only been here a year. So my experience is a bit limited by that. And our tech is huge. So I unfortunately don't have it right here. I do have a piece of something that we do help to solve though, which is microplastics. So this is a piece of compacted microplastics. I don't know if you can see it. This is from a beach in Hawaii where microplastics washed ashore, and it was compacted so much that the beach is now made of microplastics. So our technology can be used, our filters can be used to clean out microplastics, which is really neat. So microplastics come from lots of different things, but one that I like to talk about is from our clothing. So when you have clothing that's made from polyester, which is from plastics, pieces of your plastic clothing washes off into your laundry, and then it goes into your wastewater treatment plant. And most wastewater treatment plants can't filter out for the microplastics. And then they get washed into the waterways, and then they get washed into the ocean, and animals are then ingesting those, or it's going into Hawaii and being made into beaches. So some of our tech can solve for that, which is really neat. But it's a major issue. So there's some other really cool simple tech that I have. One that another small nonprofit, I don't have it here with me, is solving for. It's called the Cora Ball. It's a small ball that you put in your washing machine, and it's supposed to mimic coral, and it catches microplastics in your washing machine. It's really neat. It's in the other room, or else I would get it. But that's a neat one. But it's not Evoqua tech, but that's a cool one just for microplastics. But so our technology is really simple. If you want to, or our technology is not. That technology, Cora Ball, is simple. Our technology is a bit more complicated. We use stuff like activated carbon. So have you guys seen carbon or charcoal? Everybody's putting it in their toothpaste or in face stuff. Thumbs if you've seen it. You know, everybody's putting it in everything. Yeah. So we use it to clean water. It takes out for organics. A common thing that you're hearing more about right now is called PFAS or PFOS. It's in Teflon. So we can solve for that. It's a cancer-causing chemical, and luckily we use the carbon for it, or we use resin for it, which are these little tiny plastic beads that we charge with. We send acid through it, and we charge them either positively or negatively, depending, and they can attract certain molecules like PFAS or PFOS or other stuff, and then they capture what we want them to capture. And then when they've captured enough of what we wanted them to capture, these little tiny beads, we send a different type of acid or basic solution through them, and then they release what we want them to release, and then we can capture those. If it's metals or something, we can keep those metals, and then we can actually recycle those metals too, which is pretty cool. But if you want to check out some of our tech, I mean, we're talking like massive stuff here. You can go on our website, evoqua.com. Another really cool thing is membranes, really cool. Reverse osmosis, osmosis, mitosis. Is anybody learning about that right now in your science classes? No, or you were learning about it before COVID? Okay, well, we do some of that too. But water is a really cool, really cool tech. There have been some innovations in water technology, but we've been doing, lately we've been using old technologies and new ways to solve for new problems, which has been neat. But I want to tell you that we need young folks, like everyone on the phone, to come and help us solve water issues, because water issues aren't going away. We're just getting new ones, like the PFAS issue. And with water scarcity, we're just getting more issues. So we need young, brilliant minds like you to come help us solve these issues. So please come help us and think about a career in water technology and sustainability, but the two go hand in hand.
Thanks, Julia. I'll make sure that I include a link to Evoqua's website so folks can learn more about the technologies in the follow-up resources, which are going to be below the video that's posted or in the email that's sent to all those that are on the live call. And with that, we're out of time today. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks especially to Julia for volunteering her time to help us learn more about her current job and her path to get there. We really appreciate it, Julia. So thanks everyone, and we'll see anyone that's available for our next webinar coming up on Tuesday. Bye. Thanks to all.
Thank you, everyone.